Hello, and welcome to the Limitless Ladies Network, where we help women build holistic, empathetic self-care. Please note that this content is provided for general informational purposes only. It is not advice nor intended to be the substitute for professional medical advice. Do not use this information for diagnosing or treating any medical or health conditions. Those seeking treatment for any specific medical, physical, mental disease or ailments should always consult with a qualified professional, and we make no representations, no warranties, or assume any liability for the content herein. So I'm your host, Tammy Dungan. I am a holistic wellness coach and the founder of the Limitless Ladies Network. I'm excited to bring some fun into our lives today as we dive into navigating our journey through life by identifying some key astrological milestones with our expert here, Mystic Cat. So welcome, Cat. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here to talk about this today. I'm not going to call myself an expert, but astrology is one of many hats I wear, and I really enjoy the astrological perspective and just the uncanny way it works out.
I do too. And you say you're not an expert, but you've been doing this for what, like how many years?
Like intensely studying about 15 years. But I have been interested since I was a kid, and I've always like read up on it and learned about it, but really like diving in and getting all the as much nitty-gritty as I can with it has
Yeah.
been.
Well, to
Yeah.
me, that's an expert.
Oh,
Excellent.
thank you.
Excellent.
So, I want to start with some astrology basics because I think most people have a general idea about astrology, and it may contain a lot of misconceptions, right? So, a lot of people will say things like, well, I'm supposed to be a Virgo, but that's nothing like me. Or maybe something like, I read my daily horoscope, it never applies. For the first one, when we say I'm a Virgo or whatever, and I'm a Sagittarius, I couldn't claim to be so systematic and methodical as a Virgo, but we're just talking about our sun. We're not talking about every other planet involved in the sky or how those planets relate to each other. So it may be very strong for you depending on your chart, your sun, and it may not be. And the other piece of that, the second part where it's like, well, I read the daily horoscope, it's never relates. The daily horoscopes are using something called rising sign astrology, where they're using whole sign houses and they're taking the Aries on the cusp of the first house and they're going around and blah blah blah. What I can tell you is it's complicated, and the way they do it for mass marketing astrology is very general and basic and could apply to you, but
Mhm.
a lot of times doesn't, right?
Yeah, I mean, and it is pretty complicated because I've bought books and I've charted some things out myself, and it is a lot to be able to chart it out. And then I think it still even changes, right? Because it's not truly like your life's path necessarily. I mean, maybe for the most part, but it does give you some insight, and it takes a bit to understand.
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot of moving parts
Yes.
and a lot of not moving parts.
Planets.
Yeah, yeah, and then parts that never move. So it's complicated and there's a lot going on. What I'm going to do is describe just some of the basics, and I'm going to share my chart here just so we have a visual
We can see
of
really how
what I'm
intricate
talking
it is.
about. Yeah, yeah. So here, this is my chart. It has my birthday. Oops, I just outed my age. And location and the time. The time is very important for fine-tuning timings and houses and stuff like that. I'm just using a default house style, and it's not whole sign. So if that means anything to anybody, yes, I'm aware of the house system I'm using. And then here's a lot of the aspects and so forth. So what are we looking at? We're looking at a circle with wedges and an outer ring and a circle in the middle. So
Okay.
the circle in the middle represents the earth. We've got the earth at the center of our lives. Um, and then the western, now the one on the left, this piece on the left of the central circle is the eastern sky. And on the right, it's the western sky, which is opposite, right, of when
Mhm.
we have a
Yeah.
compass. That's because our our point of view here is from the earth. How do I want to say it? Like if you were facing this way,
Okay. I
this
can't see you change, but yeah. Okay.
oh yeah. So if I turned around and was
Yep.
backwards,
Okay.
right? So it's like from our point of view of being sitting on the planet.
Hmm.
All right. So the Earth is in the center. And then each of these wedges has a number, and the wedges are houses. Okay. A house is an area of our lives, some piece of human experience. So for example, the first house here, and I know it's the first house because it's a wedge with the number one
Okay.
there. That has to do with the identity, the self, and the body. Oh, here's the fifth house over here. Fifth house has to do with hobbies, pleasure, fun, children, sex.
Gotcha.
Um, and let's see. Oh, the fourth house, right? Roots, family, foundation, early childhood, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So you can see that like we all share things like identity and
Hmm.
things we do for pleasure and roots of our lives. So the houses are things we all share and just part of human experience.
Yeah.
Now the signs are here in this outer ring, and it's all the glyphs for the signs or the little symbols
Hmm.
that represent the signs. Signs are expressions of traits or characteristics.
I think when you click on it, your screen goes black. Did you just click?
No, I moved away from my screen.
Oh,
Oh, that's not.
maybe that's why.
Let me see. What about
Really
when I
dark.
do
It's
this? Did
okay.
it?
Just wanted to let you know it's happened a couple times. I thought it was maybe when you were clicking or something.
It's when I'm looking at my notes.
Oh,
Maybe I'll print my notes. Why don't I do that so I'm not and can you edit this out or should I just keep going?
just keep going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So a sign expresses traits or characteristics.
Okay.
So up here I've got the sign of Cancer. Cancer traits are nurturing, caregiving, um a coziness or wanting cozy connections and
Yeah.
food.
Yep.
Cancer relates to foodiness.
Yes. I like it.
So, and then Aries over here, it's leadership, it's achievement, it's accomplishment, it's go, do, be. So different signs refer to different traits and characteristics. Let's see, planets. See these little black glyphs in here
Okay.
inside the circle?
Yeah.
These are, planets, and they like the signs that represent the planets. And planets refer to like influences.
Oh, okay.
Um, right? So the moon, the way the moon influences us is that it shows us our needs and our emotions. Down here, I've got Saturn in my fourth house. Saturn uh, has the vibration, energy, or influence of structure, boundaries,
Okay.
limits, that kind of thing. So I feel like, oh yeah. So that's the core of our chart. It's the houses, the signs, and the planets. So when someone says, and all these glyphs in here are where the planets were when I was born at that exact moment of 2:52 a.m.
Okay.
They we all have all the planets in our chart, right? Because they're in the sky. So they're in our chart. And these don't move. That's where it was when we were born, and they're not moving.
Okay, so that's like the point in time of you were brought into this world and this is sort of your life path.
Yes and no, because to quote one of my favorite astrologers, Steve Judds, the planets don't compel. In other words, they don't force us to do certain things. They impel, they invite us, they encourage us, they present
They try
opportunities.
to influence us, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And you can ignore that influence or you can run with it or you
It
can
goes
do.
with choice.
Yes. Yeah. Because we have free will. We get
Yeah.
to decide.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
So like I said, those planets don't move. I mean, obviously planets move, but when we set our chart, that's what it is. That's
That's
the
what it is.
snapshot.
That's why it's so important to know exactly the day and the time, right? Because it's moving every millisecond or faster.
Yeah, yeah. So the moon spends like 2.5 days in a sign. And if you don't know the time of your birth, you could have the wrong moon or the wrong rising sign. The planets that move slower, you can probably uh, have a good sense, even if the time is wrong. But the planets that are closer to the Earth, they move faster. They have shorter orbits and they move faster. And yeah, that's where we could get things wrong if we don't have the time of birth.
So is that why there's 12 houses for like the 12 hours?
Ooh, I love that idea. Um, I don't know that that's what's true. Here's what's true is that it's a 360-degree um orbit, right?
Hmm.
It's a circle. And each house has 30 degrees in the house.
Okay.
So it needs to be 12 to
Gotcha.
make the math work, but I love the idea. I need to look into the conceptualization of making it 12 because obviously there's more constellations in the sky than these
Right.
12.
Right.
Yeah. And by the way, astrologers also know that those constellations, when Western astrology was set up, the constellations were in a different spot than they are now. So if you go, like, let's say, look, I have Mars in Leo. If
Yep.
I go outside, um, well, no, let's do the current planet, Mars in Cancer. If I go outside and look up in the sky, Mars is not going to be in the sign of Cancer.
Huh.
It's because of the way the Earth orbits and and shifts, and it's a what's the word I want? The wobble to the Earth. Constellations change
Yep.
in our sky over time. Astrologers know that,
Yeah.
but the quadrant of the sky that we're naming, oh, this is a part of the sky that's Cancerian, um, is more of a concept now than an actuality, if that makes sense.
Yep. It does make sense.
So, and I was saying, oh, Mars is up here in Cancer. See the green glyphs around the outside
Yeah.
here? Yeah, they have to do with where the planets are now. So those change.
Okay.
The
So the
green glyphs,
inside is the consistent date of birth. This is your personality. These are your traits. This is kind of your path, sort of your potential path.
hmm.
And the outside is the current state.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
perfect. Yep. So here's where things are right now. Look at this terrible cluster. Well, not terrible. It doesn't have to be terrible, but we're all clustering over here. Ah. Um,
So is that, I'm taking it that that's somewhat bad because you have a lot of things all in the fifth and sixth house?
yeah, well, for
Or is
me,
it?
now in your chart, these planets would be in a different house probably.
Yeah.
But having planets clustered together like this does intensify things. And I don't know if you or anyone else has noticed, but things are intense right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And and this goes back to returns too, but I want to first quickly make note of aspects. So this like stair-stepping chart down here is the aspects that my planets, my birth planets make to one another. So
Okay.
what does that mean? It means that an aspect, first of all, is the way the planets in a chart relate to each other. And then that informs us of certain things. For example, my sun is down here in Sagittarius and my moon is up here in Gemini. They are across from each other, directly across. I was born on a full moon.
Oh,
Um, yeah. So, but that's what we call an opposition. An opposition can be sort of this push pull between two extremes or two poles,
okay.
right? So that's an angle or an aspect, an opposition when planets are opposite each other in a chart, and
Yep.
there's like a push pull effect on that. On the energies represented by the planet in terms of the signs that they're in and the houses. So we build like layers in astrology when we're looking at planets because we're also looking at signs and we're looking at houses. And get this, look, Jupiter right now is on top of my moon, which is across from my sun. Ah, now we now we have what's called a transit. So a transit is a current planet and how it's affecting my planets and also how those planets affect each other. So
Hmm.
we, yeah. See, it's complicated.
It is very complicated. It's my brain is like
I
spinning.
know. So, right now, Pluto is down here at the bottom of my chart, and that's in the sky now, this little green glyph. And then it is opposite the green glyph of Mars. So that is true for everybody. Pluto is opposite Mars. They're not exactly opposite. Mars is going to move into the exact opposition, but a lot of astrologers have been talking about the Pluto-Mars opposition and the way it's going to square um, Uranus. So, woo, so exciting. Uh,
So what does that mean?
that's a whole other podcast, but I can tell you that everyone experiences right now, we're experiencing or about to experience Pluto opposite Mars, and Pluto is the deep depths of our subconscious, of our self. It has to do with fears, it has to do with power and control dynamics, and it's opposite Mars, and Mars is action, forward movement, how we get the things we want. Mars can also be somewhat aggressive or involve conflict. So
Hmm.
we've got these power struggles going on, right? And dynamics of control that and also it's the Pluto return for the US, so it's a lot. But we are looking at because it's in Aquarius, um, the control, the systems that control, and it's squaring Uranus. It's a lot, but know that right now, if you are having issues with or conflicts with power, control, or fears, or um, just your deep inner self that
Struggles with your inner self of, do I move forward with something? Do I take this path? Do I make this change? Do I make this move? Or am I just so afraid that goes back to choice, right? I have the opportunity to do this. Do I move forward or not? And my fear is fighting with the want of move forward, right? Like
Take action, move forward. Yes.
the
Got
action.
this? Yeah, yeah. And so that's for everybody. Well, in what way does it manifest for me? Well, it's going to manifest because Mars has to move over here
Yep.
to be exactly opposite. But for me, it manifests in my fourth and 10th houses. So that what you just described about fear and do I move forward and what I'm feeling compelled or impelled to take action, but
Yeah.
I'm afraid and I go back and forth and that's between my roots and my family and my foundation
Mm.
and my career and reputation and so forth. So it would depend on the houses how that particular transit right now is going to affect you. And I'm just so lucky that Pluto's on top of my Saturn, so it's like tearing apart structures and boundaries and things like that. So,
So it depends on your house, even though like looking at the chart that you have, I mean, it's pretty much like a compass.
hmm
And it's the same for everybody. Is the houses 1 through 12 kind of in that same position, or does that shift?
That's a great question. Boy, I'd love to put your chart up here. I should have done that. Oh, I should have thought of doing that. Let me I can, let's see, because I can show you a different chart. Um, and that may help you see.
Yeah, because I was just curious on you mentioning that in your houses, it affects different things
hmm
happening versus somebody else, but yet you were also saying that, those squaring off of those particular planets is happening for everybody, but not
Yeah,
always the same
but
things.
not in the same areas of life, because
Right.
houses are areas of life,
Oh,
right?
yep.
So if I let's see if I can just neatly switch over without having to uh unshare and reshare. Oh, no, wait. Share. Let's see if I can just switch over. Um, hmm, is it this one? Ah, the shared window close. I guess not. Okay. I really want to, let's see. Huh.
I didn't mean to mess up your share.
No, no, I don't feel messed up. But if it's a thing that you're not, oh yeah. So now I'm sharing my daughter's chart. And oh, I forgot to get the transits. So let me do that again. My apologies. They're very clunky, sorry.
That's okay.
But I think it's important to see how different it can be. Let me make sure I'm sharing the correct one. Yeah. Let's see. So are you seeing a chart with all that cluster of planets, the green ones on the left or not?
Yes. Yep. On the left.
Okay.
Yep.
This is my daughter's chart. She
Okay.
doesn't have Pluto at the bottom. She has it up here in the 10th house
Oh, okay. So Pluto is not.
or the 11th house. Sorry. She has in the 11th house. So Pluto isn't affecting career, reputation, blah, blah, blah. It's affecting her social circles and her networking and like friend groups. And it's still opposite Mars, but that's in the 5th house for her.
I see. So the outer wheel is really the only thing that changes
Mm.
with
With
those
the
symbols.
movement of the planets. Yeah. And then inside, you can see all her planets are in different places in mine.
Yeah, right. Yep.
Born at a different time and place. Yeah. Yeah. So that's like just chart basics, chart basics. Now, here's the interesting thing that has to do with milestones in our lives. So when we're born, planets are in a certain spot, right?
Right.
And because planets have orbits that are fairly predictable. I mean, Pluto's orbit's very unpredictable, so is Uranus, but in basically, each planet moves around the sun in a certain number of Earth days or Earth years.
Right.
So that's the same for all of us, no matter what.
Right.
For example, Jupiter has a 12-year orbit. It takes 12 years to go all the way around the sun and get back to where it started.
Wow.
So if I've got Jupiter, and what do I have? Jupiter in the second house in Sag, I think. Um, it will take 12 years for it to go all the way around and hit back where it was when I was born.
Wow.
And we do that every year with the sun. It's
Right.
called birthday. It's a
Yes.
solar return when the sun returns to where it was when we were born. Because the sun takes 1 year to go around.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And Jupiter takes 12 years to go around. So it spends 1 year in every house. So we can say for sure that in like when you're born, it's in a certain place and then it stays there in your birth chart, but it's moving around in real life.
Yeah.
That when you're 6 years old, Jupiter's going to be opposite where it was when you were born because it's halfway through the cycle,
Right.
right? And then when you're 12, it's going to be right back to where it was when you were born.
Yeah.
And we can also split that down, not just opposite, but we can do quarters.
Hmm.
Like when it's like 1/4 of a way around. Why would we do that? Because that's a square, and a
Yep.
square speaks to energies that are challenging or butting heads.
Ah,
Yeah, so these can be instructive. And in terms of Venus, Venus has its own 8-year cycle that relates to our birth charts, but isn't set up like Venus moves really fast through the signs and would what it takes like a 2-year orbit, a 225-day orbit. So
wow,
we
that
have
is
a Venus,
fast.
yeah, yeah. We have a Venus return like once a year. So
Yeah.
it's not a thing that like is a milestone in our life.
Okay.
And Jupiter, it moves slower than Venus. So we can say, like, every 12 years, when we're 12, when we're 24, when we're 36, when I got to do the multiplication, 48, when we're, what's the
Yeah.
next one?
Yeah. Yep.
60, 72, 84. We're going to have our Jupiter return and it will expand our energy and optimism. It can even bring luck and prosperity, but you need to look at what house it's in terms of what area of my life will I have this expansion and growth and optimism and prosperity. But if you're in a Jupiter return year and it's a 12-year multiples of 12,
Yeah.
you can, the lesson is to give and receive without pride or expectations.
Which is
So
hard.
I know. So some of the questions to ask if you're in a Jupiter return year, ask yourself, where do I need to receive? Where do I need to open up and receive? Um, where is it possible for me to give more? Am I giving too much? Am I receiving too much?
Much. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Those are good questions to ask. It's like
right?
letting go of your ego.
Yes. Yeah. Good to ask anytime, but
Yeah.
when it's a Jupiter return year, there's an extra like oomph with it
Hmm.
because Jupiter's there
Yeah.
on top of your Jupiter.
Wow.
Yeah. So another big one that people talk about all the time is the Saturn return. So Saturn has a 29 and a half year orbit. So roughly, right? So, oh, we're not even talking like Neptune has a 164-year orbit.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you get one of those.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's
Well,
something good.
you don't get a
You
return.
might, I know you might get just one experience of it. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
a
you'll get
return.
maybe the square or the opposition. But yeah, you're probably not getting a return unless they
Yeah, we're genetically modified somehow or whatever.
yes,
Longevity is becoming the thing now, so we could all live to be 100, 200.
and we could. But with a Saturn return, we're looking at the first Saturn return will be like from 28 to about 31, 32. It's because it's a slower moving planet, it can move slowly through that. Typically it'll spend 2.5 years in a sign. Um, and Saturn is a planet of structure and limits and boundaries and organizations and hard work. So when Saturn returns to the place where it was when you were born, so like I said, the first one is around 29 and a half, right around 30, right? The second one is right around 58, 60. So it's going to tear down the structures you have set up. Saturn will tear things down. And that is the opportunity to rebuild something new.
Yeah.
So you'll notice a lot of times people, when they're like 28, 29, 30, they buy a house or they move across the country or they have a child or they get married or some big milestone that changes the structure of their lives.
Hmm.
That's your Saturn return.
Yeah.
With a Saturn return, you can go with it or you can resist it.
Never good to resist.
Got it. Because if you resist, it will persist. Like Saturn will have its way, it'll tear that down, and it's better to accept that this thing is moving through and away from your life so that you can invite in or accept in whatever new is coming than to fight it tooth and nail and have a rough go and it still like disappears anyway or crumbles.
And that's about every 30 years.
Yeah, Saturn's returns are big. You got big stuff going on. And the questions are what is essential in my life and what can I give up?
Mm,
What is trying to leave my life right now? How can I see that as an opportunity to bring in something new?
yeah. I feel
That's,
like I just went through that not that long ago,
yeah.
but yet you're saying that it like lasts for 3 years, but it may not hit me for another 3 or 4 years. So I'm like,
Mm, mm. So I don't actually know your age, but
not 60.
yeah, no, no.
It's not 50.
Yeah.
It's
And you're
close.
not probably 28.
It's in the mid 50s-ish.
Yeah. So you could have, that could have been your Chiron return. So Chiron is one of those dwarf planets. It is the and planets are all named for mythological figures. So Chiron was a centaur. It's like half human, half person, and was mortally wounded and was but could never heal from it because some other god gave Chiron immortality, and so Chiron's a mess. But but then Chiron learned to use the wounding as a point for healing. So our lessons with a Chiron return, let me just do my, sorry, yeah. It'll open unresolved issues and gives you an invitation to dive into those issues and do the healing that's required. That tends to happen around 52. But it can, because the way planets move, it can be a little earlier, a little later, and it will linger
Yeah.
for more than that one moment it's
Yeah.
exactly on top. So yeah, it is, the essential wounding comes up and it can be rough. A Chiron return can be really rough. Um, and it is also that opportunity to say, okay, that what is that? The wound is the place where the light enters.
Yeah.
How can, instead of why is this happening to me? Why is this happening for me? How can I use that essential wounding that I'm becoming so present to and is just like like reappearing and like regurgitating itself. How can
Mhm.
I take that and use it as a point of healing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
I can
it's
attest that it is a tough transition to go through.
it is. I
Yeah.
can attest to that too.
But to know that there's like another one that lasts for like 2 years, oh boy. Good to
Well,
know, I guess.
tell you this, the second Saturn return is not as rough as the first one. Like the first one turns everything upside down. If you've done your work over the years in terms of introspection and self-reflection and healing, the second one isn't as intense. I know for my second Saturn return, I did end up going back into therapy and did some very, very intense trauma work.
Mm.
And it was all related to my fourth house, which is where Saturn is in my chart. And I didn't even like consciously do that. I was just like, it's time.
Yeah.
It's I got to just do this. So that wasn't as much as of an upheaval as my first Saturn return, which kind of like just knocked everything out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
It's good to know that we can have some insight to be able to navigate through these different charts and,
mhm.
transitions really, not necessarily through your own chart.
Yes, and also if you know people of a certain age, like what is it, the Neptune opposition might be around 72 or something, and there's your third Saturn return when you're 84, and there's a Uranus like square or whatever, and if you know people of a certain age and you're like, what has got into them? You can be like, okay, is this an astrological milestone? Are
Uh,
they experiencing like the Uranus square where all of a sudden they're like, whoo, I'm getting eccentric and quirky and I don't care.
I'm living my life. This is what.
Yep. Yep, I don't care what anybody else thinks or does or says. Um, so it can be helpful for your own growth, and it can also be helpful for how you relate to others when you realize, that's what's going on. Okay, okay.
Yeah, I think that it allows you to show some grace either to yourself or to others
Perfectly said. Yeah, I
and
agree.
lets it pass, right? This too shall pass. So you just get to understand the whole aspect a little easier with your relationships and with yourself.
Yeah, perfect. Like it's a dynamic and it will pass. And in its passing, it may leave like permanent change, but know that they haven't all of a sudden just lost their mind or something. Know
Right.
that they're responding to planetary influences and the way those planetary influences relate to other pieces of their chart
Mm,
and to what's going on in the sky right now. And it can help you get a deeper understanding of where they are and where they might be going with this.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's all great stuff.
Whew. So that's my quick
That's your quick overview of how to read your chart. That was like really intense.
Yeah.
Great,
Yeah.
though. Thank you.
I I hope, there was enough basics that people have some understanding at this point.
Yes, absolutely. I think it was wonderful. It's a great jumping off point, and people can now know that they need to find their birthplace, birth time, and
Hmm.
what else?
Date.
Date, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And then they can dig deeper.
Yes. The,
Awesome.
the digging doesn't stop, believe me.
I know. I know the work never ends. Well,
Yes.
thank you for joining me again and talking about how we can connect the dots of our birth chart to gain some insight into our life's journey. I encourage all of those folks that have joined us or not joined us, because you could not make it today, that you sign up for any future events. Check out our video library of past recordings. Check out the directory of holistic practitioners. We have a couple new ones on there that I'll be doing a podcast with on some hormone replacement therapy, which I'm excited to talk about, and also other workshops that are coming up. And I have one vision boarding one at Primitive Crow actually at the end of the month, which I'm excited to do, and talking about potentially doing like a summer solstice event here in town too. The recordings are going to be updated on our videos page. The podcast should be available shortly thereafter if you can't have time or don't have time to watch the video. And of course, connect with us through our newsletter with limitlessladiesnetwork.com. Sign up or follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and our podcast is limitlessladiesnetwork.podbean.com. And you can also find it on Apple Podcasts as well. And for more information or to connect with Kat or book a private reading with her, which I have done and she's amazing, is to link to her website, which is Mystic, MYSTICKATAROT.com.
Thank
Thank you very
you.
much.
Great to be here.